So, we're going to talk a little bit about hiring and specifically why you shouldn't just hire anyone with 2 feet and a heartbeat, because there's much more to it than that. Now, Dylan, during the break, we were talking a little bit about the importance of a hiring process and something that you've really been able to nail down for yourself, what you guys do at the Profit Launchpad. But what I'm curious about is if you can share with our listeners what was the kind of impetus of this? What made you recognize that you needed to approach hiring a little bit differently from your own vantage point?
So when we were just starting the idea of Profit Launchpad, it was more of a fractional COO agency model. In order to deliver high value to these like local service companies, do the implementation for them. I really have stayed away from the consulting, like management consulting model where it's like, here's your report, best of luck type of deal. I remember hiring people those for multiple of my businesses and I hated it. He's like, oh, great. I spent 40 grand on a report. I don't have the time or money to implement. Perfect. The outcome though of this fractional COO business, which was a pivot into what we're doing now with a more platform-based growth partnership, is it's really hard to do implementation as a fractional just means part-time person, right? And what I found a lot of fractionals, unless you are at a $20 million company or above and you're working on a specific project, fractional just means, to me at least, that you are a full-time worker who's paid part-time. And you get in a lot of arguments with CEOs. I really looked at it as like, okay, well, we're not, the people are bringing on fractionals and people are bringing on agencies and consultants because it's really easy to get pitched by an agency who's got a good pitch and a good offer to fix a problem. But it's really hard to find an agency or a consultant that actually can fix that problem on a budget and timeline that fits a sub 5 million local service company, right? So I looked at this and said, why is that? And it's because hiring is so crazy expensive, right?
Mm.
So a lot of local service businesses don't understand it. It takes 9 months really to have someone fully integrated into your company. It costs hundreds of thousands of dollars in opportunity costs and real cash value and lost or a productive time to hire. If you make a mistake in the hire, like if the first person you pick is not the winner, it's double the cost type of deal. And there's lots of solutions. There's recruiters there's some really great recruiters that do find people. There's finding contractors but instead we just looked at this like, what if we started hiring people with a purpose of an outcome? And actually there's a book right behind me on my desk that talks about that a lot, funny enough. That's not a plant. And so outcome-based hiring and what we do, and this ties into our software package and platform as well, is we're hiring rather than being like, you are a office manager, you are a bookkeeper, you are a HVAC technician. It's like, what outcomes does the business need to reach its goals? And what that forces owners to do is build intelligent planning. So we don't do like strategic planning and mission and vision and statements. We pick a vision for the owner, and it's, what do you want to do? Like, what do you want to be, a $5 million company? Do you want to be a $20 million company? Why do you want to be a $5 million company? Like, what do you actually want from this business? Because a lot of people go into business, believe it or not, a lot of people go into business without really knowing why. Maybe they just were sick of working for someone, or they were doing side jobs and it morphed into a business. So the first step is that vision of, what does the day-to-day runner of the business actually want to do? What are the decisions in the objectives and the intelligent KPIs that are set up to achieve that? And then what are the functions or the roles or the tasks? Like, there's a million different words to use that need to be completed at above a specific KPI. Then you now have a job description. And that's outcome. That's what we've followed now, is this outcome-based hiring system. So then when we go through the hiring, we have a very strict, like, step-by-step process that takes it. People hate it. Like, I hate it. It takes a long time, but the results are we find the right people for the right seat. And going slow, like, that's the thing, is for these smaller businesses, these main hires are so important because they're essentially business partners that are paid a salary, right? And unlike what I used in a description before of like a tech company where you're like, I need 40 full stack engineers because we're going into major dev because we want to scale to 100 million users. It's like this isn't what that's for. This is for that like those first 5 killer hires where a business owner doesn't really know what they need. And so they start saying, I need a COO, I need a VP sales. Like, yeah, but what does that actually mean? And that's where we focus on those outcomes. Like, what are the outcomes? And if you don't have the vision and you don't have the objectives picked out on how to get there, then your hires are not gonna, they're gonna be expensive over a long time as you figure it out together. So this is a way for these business owners to really like skip those messy steps. A few of the messy steps. Like there's still gonna be messy steps made, but it's to skip a few of them.
So walk us through a couple of the intelligent KPIs that you might identify, whether it's from your own business or even just some of the clients that you serve. You go through that process, you go down a line of questioning, you get some clarity, you're extracting clarity from the business owner about what these outcomes look like. And then now you're framing that into, like, say, an intelligent KPI. So what would an example of that kind of look like for yourself?
Yeah, the best one I have that I find every single person I talk to, if they're under 7 figures, so and they're like, we want to be a 7-figure company. Okay, great. What pick a number, right? So someone's always like, oh, I want to do 1.5 million. I want to do 3 million. And I say, okay, why? Why do you want to be 3 million? Why don't you want to be 30 million? And the reason I go through that process and what we do is we shine a light on what that actually means. So you're at 600 grand, you're at 800 grand, whatever. Now, to grow to that number, roughly, now if you have like great referrals and network, this might be a little different, but roughly you're going to spend 20% of the target revenue in marketing to generate the leads to get there. That's with the assumption that you've got functional marketing channels figured out, right? Now, if you don't have functional channels and you're just on kind of like you're on the revenue roller coaster, you're on trickle of leads from a friend, referral here, network there, breakfast there. Like you don't really have a functional, consistent lead channel. It could be much higher. We can get there doing incremental growth, but here's our like first thing we have to fix is marketing. We need a channel that works. We need consistent lead flow out of it, and we need to apply a normalized budget to it and be measuring KPIs every month to ensure that's happening. And then we need to replicate it. And we use that bottom level number of how many leads can we generate for the budget that we currently have and what's our closing rate. So then we go into sales efficiency and things like that. But we look at that as the number to base the future revenue projection off of. So many, it's the one of I actually built a course around it, a free course for all my clients that sign up to watch before they start working with us because it's so common. Is like if you picked a revenue number that's probably unrealistic because you have no plan on how getting there other than working hard. So this goes like right back to what we talked about. You can't just work hard to get a number. And across the board, I get big light bulbs, a lot of ahas, and a lot of like happy, like, oh, okay, well, we can do 800,000 this year or a million this year, but we can also pull 15% net profit out of that. And it's like, yeah, and if you do 1.5 or 1.8, you're going to be negative 10% net profit because it's going to go all into marketing. And so we get that change in perspective as people really look and go, oh, I can actually make money doing this if I think about it. And that's when I always use intelligent budgeting, intelligent KPIs as a ground level of what can we achieve to what can we get rather than just picking numbers. And again, like this is for local service businesses. There's lots of different industries like that can grow that fast with just using, especially like if you're in e-commerce or again tech and you know how to scale ads specifically, you can scale crazy fast, way above the numbers I'm talking about. But local service businesses is way harder because there's a lot of on the ground issues, right? Like there's just a lot of competition, but there's a lot of lack of existence in the local market will prevent you from scaling like that.
Yeah, you have geographic, whether you call it competition or certainly other providers often, and also you're fighting against their other marketing. But then it's a matter of, again, what I really appreciate how you identified. Sure, numbers are easy to think around and to assess, and we can do math on them very quickly. But it's never about a number. It's like there's a video out there. It's not all about the nail, right? It's about what the representation of what that number means. And so, what is the value proposition? Why is this actually important? I think that's the key thing that you're trying to identify for people, for these business owners. And the more that you can dial in on that, the more you can relate what that proposition is, what that meaning for the individual is, and how that connects to a number. Because a number
Mhm.
is just a number.
Yeah, and it puts us like I do it specifically because we aim at our clients to be growth partners. And the difference between that and like a consultant or a fractional is my mandate in my contract is to be as transparent to my client as possible and help educate them along the process of like it's not being pessimistic, but like we can do anything we want as long as it's tied to reality. And that's what we really, really do focus on is, yeah, I can get you to $10 million, but you're going to need like 1.5 million in cash to do it. And that's just the reality. There's always breakouts, right? There's always a guy who's like, oh, I started my business 2 years ago and we're doing $20 million. And it was like, sure, of course there is. But that's 99% of businesses are not in that boat. And that's who I'm trying to work with is creating those again, creating the sustainable long-term businesses that people can be proud of. Maybe you sell it, maybe you give it to your kids, maybe it just creates a cash cow, or maybe you work it. I don't know. Those are the decisions in that vision process that we go through. And again, it's not to create like a wishy-washy vision statement. It's like literally just what do you want to do? Like, do you want to sit on a boat and get a phone call once a week about your marketing budget and how it's killing it? Like, we can do that, but a lot of things have to be set up before you can get there, right?
Yeah, I love it. Well, we're going to hear more about some of the ways that you're innovating into 2025 and beyond when we come back after this commercial break.